So today class we are going to focus on troubleshooting scenario that you'll be facing when you are working. These are going to be the tickets you get or issues that you have to resolve. And I've picked many of them. We have one, let me see, two, three, then we have 4, 5, 6, 7 or so. So about 7 or 8 issues, which are the common thing that you'll be asked to resolve. And based on the today discussion, you should be able to resolve all of them. So the first item of scenario that you can have in real life is device not communicating on the network or device not pingable, which means that they are not reachable on the network. So let's say this is a user. He creates a ticket that he doesn't have access to the internet. I'm going to walk you through the things you have to check. I call them checklists, which will allow you to resolve this issue. So you have to pay attention to what I'm going to do today, because this is going to happen. Everything I'm going to talk about are things that you are going to get ticket on, especially when you are saying that or your job involve you to resolve, break and fix. So this is one of the examples we have. So if this PC cannot reach the internet, what do you have to do? Or when you get a ticket or you get issue like a device not communicating, the first thing you always have to know as a network engineer is knowing the scope of the issue. That will determine the direction of focus. So when there is a report that a device is not communicating on the network, first of all, ask them how many devices are affected. Is it everybody in this department? Or is it only a single device which is affected? Now, if it's everybody on this department, then your focus should be this switch. The switch that connects to all the pieces. That should be your focus. So there are two different ways. So let's take, for example, if everybody is affected. Always if everybody is affected, has to deal with switch. You don't go through cable, you don't go through IP settings, nothing. Come and look for the switch, and you have to find out what location, which floor, to be able to identify the IDF. So let's say this is an IDF 1. Then you go there to check whether all the switches have power. So that should be your first point of call. Let's say everybody here, PC1, PC2, PC3, based on the image you have here, everybody cannot communicate on the internet or don't have access to the network. Then you look for the switch that they are connected on, and there are few indications that you have to make note of. If it's multiple devices, when you look for the device, see whether there is power. So look for power. And then if there is no power, see whether there is UPS, whether that device is connecting to UPS. So UPS is what will keep the device running if it's an issue. So this switch will be plugged to the UPS. And then if this UPS is down, then the switch will go down. So be sure that the UPS is in good condition. So you can have a scenario of the damaged UPS is the reason why multiple devices are not communicating. So that is something you have to find out. In the absence of UPS damage, you also have to see whether there is power to this device. Maybe somebody went to unplug the power cable or got it shifted, so it's not well seated in terms of the connection to the power supply. So that is something you also have to look out for. And then in addition to that, if that doesn't resolve the issue and you still see that UPS is good, power is on the device, try to ping this switch. Mostly if the software is hanging, the switch will not be reachable. So if there is power and the switch is not reachable, reboot the switch. So when you reboot it, you see that you have the issue resolving. Another issue relating to multiple devices is, so you've checked all the things I've spoken about. UPS is good, there is power. You can ping the piece, the switch. Then another thing is you can check the trunk to the core. And I'm still on multiple devices. Check the trunk to the core. Maybe the trunk port is disabled or it's not connected to the core switch. So you have power to the switch, all right, but the reason why you are not, all these devices are not communicating is because the switch connection to the core is not reachable, so everybody will be down. So that is another possibility. The next possibility when multiple devices are not communicating is you check the trunk is okay, there is power, everything is good, but yet still they are not communicating. Look for the IP address of this, all the devices. If all of them are giving you 169, which is their PIPA address, then find out about the DHCP services. Every company have a DHCP server, and sometimes they will have issue of the service itself will stop working, and for that reason all the users are not getting IP address from the server. So in that scenario, you have to check with the server team whether the DHCP server is okay. That is when you know that the server IP is for server management. So your first week at work, things you should be looking out for: find out the DHCP server. What device is using the DHCP server? Is it a Windows device? Is it a Linux device? Is it a core switch? You can also, sometimes some companies use the core switch to do DHCP, which is not the best, but it is. You can also have a company using the firewall as a DHCP server. It's still not the best, but there are companies using that. So you go through all this scenario to get to know the DHCP server, so that you know who to call when there is an issue. So most common practice is a Windows server or a Linux server or different separate device running the DHCP server. If they get a people address, check with them, and mostly their services are stopped. Now this scenario will resolve all the issue when it comes to what? Multiple devices. Any question about multiple devices connectivity? Yes, David.
Yeah, bro. I just got a question about the UPS. You said that if all the devices aren't working, then we should check the UPS. So I thought the UPS gives the devices power when there's like an outage. But so even if there's no outage and the UPS is not working or damaged, that could also cause them to not have power.
Yes, yes. So the UPS is also a device. Sometimes you can even have a battery issue. Sometimes it could be that the UPS is damaged. So for that reason, they are not feeding power, because now how the UPS is working, it get power from the main power supply and give it to the switch. And then in case of power outage, it can stand for maybe 30 minutes or 1 hour depending on the load that is receiving. But sometimes it's damaged, and because of that it's off. And if it's off, then it will not be able to send power to the device, and for that reason this will go off. So what you can do is you can just remove it and connect it to a main power supply unit. But let's have a situation where there are two switches, or let's say 3 switches, and they are all connecting to the UPS, and the UPS is connecting. Let's say this is the UPS and we have 2 switches there, but there is only one power supply that the UPS is connecting to, and then this UPS is connecting to these 2 switches. When the UPS is down, it means that you need a power strip. Here they call it power strip, but we also call it extension cord. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So you have to check whether there is a power strip, then you connect it to this one, then now you can connect it direct to the 2 switches, because you can't have one of them dealing with only one connection for the power unit. Do you get the idea? Then also
Yeah.
the connection of the UPS, there is this scenario where you have 2 power units. So they will give you 2 power units. Okay, now these 2 power units, one will be for generator testing, and then one will be for main power units. So the generator one, which means that if you connect to this, you are connecting to a backup of generator, and then if you connect to this, you have no backup of generator. For the UPS, it's always good to connect it to the backup and not the main one. So what will be the use for this main one? The use for this main one is let's assume that this switch has two power units, like most of the 3850, from 3850, 9200, 9300, 9400. All these series, they have dual power supply units, so it comes with two power link. So you have to, and you see it at the boot camp, so you have to connect one to the UPS and one to the main unit, so that if the UPS is down, the main unit will be okay. And then if they are running generator test and the generator failed to come up, or whatever the case may be, the main power will also give you that. So that should be your connection. I told you that as a network engineer, you are responsible for installation, configuration, and maintaining the network. Installation, this is part of the installation. Configuration we've done is copy and paste. That is what you do in real life. And then maintaining is the troubleshooting, making sure that the network is up and running. These are the main thing you'll be dealing with, no matter which area you get a job from. So that is very key. Okay, so any other question when it comes to multiple devices? Okay, now let's go with single device. So now you ask questions, you got the information. I told you that your best process of resolving issues is to understand the issue. So ask more questions for connectivity issue. To be able to understand the issue well, ask more questions about how many devices. If they talk of single device, then that is the good information to have. Then this single device, ask more questions. Have you checked for layer 1 before I even think of working? And then they will understand it. So mostly, if this user has an issue, as a network engineer, you are not the one they should report to. They have to take it to the full support unit, and they will come and check layer 1 issue, put in more information in the ticketing system before they escalate it to the network engineer. So through that, you know that the device is powered on, is connected well, everything is okay, but it's still not working. This is where you come in to check all this. What it means is that the next item is what you should also check. So where do you want to go that you don't have access to? Is it to internet or is it to a server? That will also guide you how you can troubleshoot. If it's to a service, maybe to application service, then you ask them, can you access internet? They say yes. If they can access internet, then it means that your connectivity to the switch is okay. It's only a matter of the connectivity to the PC, to the server. Are you all getting what I'm saying? And in that situation, the way you troubleshoot is also different. Remember, this is going to be a client and this is going to be a server. Now, if they cannot access the server or the services they want to get from here, what you tell them is, can you ping the server? If they say yes, your work is done. There is nothing else to do. Once you can reach the server, I don't care how the system should work. That is not your responsibility. So you have to also get to know all that. But let's say it's not relating to specific server, but they are saying that we can't go anywhere, meaning that they can't access internet, they can't go, maybe they can't print, they can't access application, whatever the case may be. You also have to change the way you are going to troubleshoot. Now you are not going to do PC to the server or to the printer. Let's say PC say I cannot print to this one. Find out if the PC can ping the printer. If it's possible, it's no more your work. It's no more network. But let's assume the one I'm talking about, where they can't print, they can't do so. This one is not on the network. That is what it means. Now, if it's not on the network, and they are saying that there is connection to this, there is connection to this. And when I say connection to this, at this stage, I know all of you know what I mean by that. And all this tracing is done by the field support guy. Unless you are working as layer 1 and layer 2 engineer, then sometimes the ticket will come to you direct and you have to go and deal with all those aspects. But if you are pure network engineer for layer 2 and layer 3, then the layer 1 should be done by the field support guy or the desktop guy. So the next thing you have to check, and this one you can know it in your interview, your first week, is to know the hierarchy of your department. And this you ask it in an interview. So in an interview, you ask them, what is the team dynamic? What will I be part of? Who will I report to? What is the team size? And in terms of dynamics, who is the first point of contact when there is an issue from a user? So you kind of understand the process before you start working, so that when issue comes, you know how to deal with it. So you know there is a server team, you know there is a firewall team, you know there is a telecom team. Then when there is an issue relating to voice, you don't work on it, or those kind of aspects. So you have to get those details well. But let's assume that you have all those details, and now we are dealing with the whole network not communicating. Okay, if the whole network, guys, give me just 1 minute. So that is an issue relating to multiple. So now we are dealing with specific. So as I was saying, if it's an issue with a single device and layer 1 has been ruled out, which means that they have checked all the connection to the switch. Now it's now layer 2. It could be layer 2 or it could be layer 3. So in that situation, what do you do? As I said, you now come to the next one. Now, why do you have to check the cable connection to be sure that it's good when they have checked that all this is connected? So they will tell you everything is connected, all this is connected. As a network engineer, you can determine whether the cable is damaged, which the field support guys will not be able to see that. So the way you can get to know or resolve that issue is you find out that the port is, let's say, port G01 here. That is the port they gave to you. You apply this command, and there are two commands I will show you. I'm showing you the first one. So you can apply this command, and then you check for input errors or CRC errors. Now, if there is numbers here and it's relating to CRC errors, then that is an indication that it's a cable issue. So that one, you tell them change the cables. And what cables are they going to change? They have to change the patch cable, this cable, and this cable, because you might not know which of them is giving you that error. So they will change this one, and then they will change this one. And then if they change this one, what you have to do to be sure that it's also okay is to come and verify again if the numbers are still increasing. But I forgot. Let me also show you this. Before you tell them to check the cable, do clear counters. Now, clear counters. So clear or is it underprivileged? Let me be sure of clear counters. Okay, so you shouldn't do it under configuration mode. It has to be in privilege mode. So clear counters, and then you can clear the counter on the specific port you are dealing with. Okay, so let's say it's G01. Then it will ask you, are you sure that is what you want to clear the counters? You say yes. Then now you come and do the show interface G01 to see whether it's back to 0. So sometimes you can have counters which they have resolved that, which means that it was initially with numbers, but it's an old issue. So that before you tell them to change the cable, clear the counters and see if the number is still increasing. Then it tells you that there is an issue with the cable. Then you tell them to change it. And when they change it, you clear it again, and it has to be 0. If the cable issue is resolved, it has to be 0. You can also do show interface, let's say G01, and then you just pipe it and say include errors. And that will give you only errors. So if you don't want to see the whole of this, you can also apply this verification command, and then your focus is to be seeing this to see whether there is any numbers generating. Sometimes you can have input errors as well, or you can have output errors, but this is not error. This is something that I generated right now. That is the reason. So this is something you have to check about, but most often CRC is pointing to what? Cable related issue. So what it means is, if that is the situation, then that will resolve the issue. So when they change the cable, you see that now this device can communicate to everything. Now, if you also check and you see that it's not a cable related issue, then ask of the IP address on this device. Is it a PIPA address or is it a static IP? If it's a PIPA address, because not everybody is affected, it's not a DHCP server issue. I told you with the multiple device issue, it has to do with DHCP if you've gone through all the list I gave you. But if it's a single device, then of course it's not going to be DHCP server. So this is something to show that if the cable is good, then you have to check the assignment here, the VLAN assignment here. Is it a DHCP VLAN, or is it in error disable, or is the port shut down? All those stuff will be the reason why this device cannot communicate on the network. Are you all following that? Then also, it could also be a situation where somebody on the trunk link removed the VLAN, which could be human error. We do changes and we make that mistake. So if the VLAN that is assigned is not on the trunk link, if it's a restricted issue, that can also be the issue. And this one I've spoken about this also. Now, if all this still did not resolve the issue, then you know that you are dealing with a wrong field support person. Probably you are dealing with a wrong field support person. So this is what you do, and this one I will show you at the boot camp. I might not be able to do it on this. What it means is, you let them unplug this device, and then you check the logs here, and you see that this port will be showing down. When they unplug it and you do show login on your device, let's say you come here and you do show login, you see the port which has been down and the port which has been up. Okay, so it will give you the recent port. So this is giving me the things that has happened on this device. That is not what we need, but to give you the recent issue that you have on your device in terms of that. So that is also something to know. Now what happens is, when you remove the port, you do show login, you see that let's say port 2 is down, then you tell him connect it back again, then port 2 is up, then you know that you are dealing with port 2. But when he was giving it to you, he was showing you a different port altogether. Whilst the login information is saying port 2, he gave you port 3. So all your troubleshooting process, you were dealing with a wrong port. Are you all getting the concept of what I'm saying? And this is something with they also get tired, guys, because it's not easy to trace the cable. For them to trace it and tell you you are connected to this is very difficult. What it means is, to be able to resolve this issue as a network engineer on your troubleshooting or your ticket, you have to know the switch you are dealing with. They will give you the switch IP, and you have to know what port the device is connecting to, so that you can check whether the VLAN information is right and all that. And sometimes in tracing that, they get it wrong, and you can use this one to determine that. And sometimes the funny thing is, the switch could be 4 switches or 2 switches. It might give you the top switch and give you port 1, but when you do the login, you don't see any information here. You don't worry, log on to the next switch. That is why I said do site survey and do the same show login, and you tell them remove and plug it back, and you see that the thing is rather this and not this. Then you tell them that no, the issue is on here, and I've resolved it, so connect it to this device. Or are you all getting the flow of what I'm saying? And that is very, very common in real life. Okay, then if You do the show login and everything point out to be that is this one, which means that you've determined the cable, you've determined the IP, everything is correct. Nothing seems to be wrong in terms of network based on the discussion we've done so far. The next thing is, when you get a laptop, make sure your laptop has a NIC card. Your laptop is going to be your working tool. So when they buy you a laptop, they will ask you what laptop you want. Make sure you have a NIC card that you can connect cable to. Then now come and isolate this device. Connect your laptop to this. And if it's working on your laptop, you tell him, you know what, deal with this device. It has nothing to do with me. Are you all getting what I'm saying? But assuming you don't have a good laptop, all these scenarios should solve the issue. But because you don't have a good laptop, the ticket is still on you. And now it will look like you are the one who don't know your stuff. But in reality, it's not your stuff. So when it comes to connectivity issue, this is very, very simple in terms of solving them. All this checklist, trust me, if you understood what I said and you watch the video over and over, there is no issue you should not be able to solve when it comes to pinging issue. So when I tell you reach out when you have issue, don't reach out with pingable issue because it's the least issue to resolve. And I've given you all the checklist. Just follow them and solve them. Okay? Yes, Paps.
Yeah, Prof, I want to be sure if the show login command is related to the input command we give on the basic when we are doing the live VTY.
Live VTY.
So just to say that, yeah, you see, we do this
login synchronous. No. So the login synchronous, what it means is that you want to avoid the messages popping up whilst you are doing configuration. Somebody is unplugging on the other side, the system will be giving you the logs. You don't want it that way. You want to go through the system itself to be able to determine what the issue is. So now, if you look at the system, it's giving me that you clear a counter on this interface. So when somebody also unplug it and you do show login, it will show exactly that port has been down. Do you get the idea?
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, good. So guys, make sure when it comes to pinging issue, you have answered to all. I've answered everything relating to multiple and single. But of course, I'm not expecting you to understand this. This is the reason why I said these videos are things you have to watch even when you get job. You need it to be watching all the time. Let it be your breakfast video so that I can wake up and remember all. By you not working before, you can't remember all. Let it be your breakfast. Let me show you something that I used to do when I was also like you. So instead of watching with my eyes, I want to watch with my ears. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So what I'm hearing, I should visualize it. So this one, don't always sit in front of computer. You can log on to your laptop, your phone, and play the videos. Or even some of this one, I will see which one I can put on YouTube with the way I've done it, in a way that it will not be a communication that had a question. So you can have interview question where they will ask you, can you walk me through a typical scenario that you have solved? That is one question you get in an interview. Oh, every day is different. I mean, you can't have the same day all the time. And if to remember, yesterday I had a ticket of a PC which was not reachable on the network. And the way I resolve it was I normally use bottom-up approach. So with the bottom-up, I start with layer 1 to be sure that layer 1 issues is good. And when I talk of layer 1 issues, I'm relating to cable connection, I'm relating to the PC being powered on, the switch having power. So all those things were okay. So I then later on asked the IP address of the PC, and then it was a PIPA address. So if it's an PIPA address, it's an indication that it's not communicating on the network to get DHCP server, or the DHCP server is down. So what I did next was to log on to the switch. I had a port in question, so I did show interface status, and then I realized that this port was in error disable, and just doing shut and no shut resolved the issue. This is what they want to know. And that answer proved to them that you have worked before. So they will give you typical scenario questions or walk me through one of them. You can use this to be the one that you use to solve the issue. You can also use this one that it was cable related issues. So you did this verification and you had CRC errors with so many numbers, and then you told them to change the cables for the wall jack and the patch panel, and that resolved the issue. You can also say that it was wrong VLAN assignment. So all these are possible scenarios that you can have when something is what? It's not reachable on the network. Okay? Okay. Perhaps, is it old hand or new one?
It's old.
Okay. So in terms of pingable, we all understand the conversation. Yes, Godfred.
Yeah, Prof, with the cable, when you are changing the cable, if it's detected and that is, can you be specific? You change the one from the user to the wall jack, that
Yes.
is one.
Yes.
And then from the switch to the patch panel, or from the wall jack to the patch panel.
No, so you have to change the wall jack to the patch panel. No, okay, so I get what you mean. So this is through the ceiling, so that you cannot change it. So what you have to do is you change the one from the PC to the wall jack, which is a short cable to connect to the PC. Then you come and change the switch to this. Now, if this is not solved, it could be like I said before, some mouse is enjoying themselves inside the ceiling. So what you can do also, we have cable tester. I will show you at the boot camp, where you can test the cable within the ceiling. You connect one end here, and then you come and connect one end here, and it will tell you if the cable is broken, and then you know that the cable guys have to check. So that you need a cable tester. Now most often the field support guys have a cable tester. So in the layer 1 they are able to resolve that. But if they've not resolved it, your first week tools to have as a network engineer, you need a cable tester. If the company don't have some, sometimes there will be, you find out, is there any cable tester? Make sure you get one. Apart from cable tester, get a label printer. Why do you need a label printer? Because when you install a new switch, you have to label it. So these are tools that you have to get. And then you need a power drill or chargeable drill machine, where if you are racking, you hook it and you use it to rack your switches and your routers. So those are the things that you can do. But for the women, you don't need to worry yourself racking. All you have to do is when you see Obed like this and you tell him, let's assume that Amy is a network engineer and Obed is a desktop engineer. And then Amy tell Obed, can you help me to install one switch? You see how Obed will be running. He will run like something. Even women, they run. How much more a woman? So if you're a woman, don't worry your head. They will rack everything for you because they just admire that you are a network engineer. So when it comes to racking, hardly will you do it. But I'll still show you how to do it at the boot camp. But you need all those things. You need a label printer. You need a power drill to be able to do all that. Okay. Godfred, are you good with that?
Yes, Prof.
So what devices do you have to have, or what equipment will you work with or in your current job? What are the equipment you use for your role?
I use the cable tester, the label printer, the power drill.
And first of all, use your PC is your first number one tool. your because everything is from there. So my PC is my number one working tool. Then of course, if I'm doing installation, I will need a power drill. I will need a cable tester. Not cable tester. Cable tester is for troubleshooting. So you need a power drill and a label printer. And also for troubleshooting, I will need a cable tester. The way you talk like that, the engineer knows that you are somebody who has been in the industry. So that is very, very key. Okay. So say that one again.
No, I said thanks.
Okay. Yes, David.
Yeah, bro. Just a quick question. Before you spoke, you said sometimes the desktop guys they or whoever, it's kind of like a lot of work to trace the wiring. But if we label it properly, wouldn't that be a little easier, and wouldn't it be too much work?
So the label will be for the switch, not the cable. For PCs, we don't label
Oh,
them.
okay.
We don't label the PC, but the servers. So the core switches is labeled. All the core switches, you label them. So any connection to the core, you label it, to server, to switch, whatever. But when it comes to users, phones, printers, we don't label them. But if you have proper cable management, it makes it very easy. But like some of the pictures I show you, some of them are not really nice. So it becomes very difficult to get that situation working. So in ideal situation, it shouldn't be difficult, but you are not always going to have a perfect situation. So for that reason, you have to be prepared for that. Let me see if I can get a data closet and see whether we can see one of the things I'm talking about. One with proper cable management and one with crazy management. So let's see. Okay, so it's looking too big, so let me make it smaller. Okay, so when you look at this one, so there are two methods of cable management. If you look at this, you can manage the cable by using shorter cables. So shorter, like 1 foot, those kind of thing. So that makes it very easy to trace. Or you can also have a cable management where you have it this way, so you can see that everything. Are you able to see the image anyway? Are you able to see the image? Oh, you can't see it, and you're also not talking, and I'm
Yes,
assuming that
you
you
can see
see
it.
it.
You can
We
see
can,
but not be seen.
yeah, we can see it, but it's like it's not close enough.
Not big
It's
enough.
not
Yeah.
close enough. Okay, let's see if I can get some which will be. Okay, so let's. Okay, let me bring this one. Okay, maybe I have to.
Prof, I think when you open the link, it comes with it will be bigger.
Yeah, okay. View image. Okay, so no, this one is good, but not the way I want it. Let me get a different one to show you together. Okay, let's see this one, and then let's view the image of this. Okay, so this one, is it good? And this one is showing the back. You see the way the patch cables is being pinched at the back through the ceiling, by showing the back. So let's look for something that will show the front view. So let's look for front view one, and then you get proper understanding of what I'm talking about. So let's like this one. If you are not lucky and you get IDF like this, it is very difficult to, you see, spaghetti one, it's very difficult to trace, and there are a lot of environments like that. So that scenario, or you get something like this, these are real life IDF. It's not easy to be able to get that, but you can manage your cable wall by having something like I want to get something where the front view is showing. Okay, so it seems like this one, it was like this before, and then they made it this way. So if you look at it very well, there are two ways to manage the cable. If it's a shorter one, then you can connect it straight to the switch, but if it's long, you pass through this before you come here. So in that situation, you can remove this cable management bracket from here, and then you can have easy way of checking. And this is also cable management bracket that you can also remove in terms of getting to know the actual port you are dealing with. So this is proper way of managing the cable, but if you have it this way, it's not really comfortable. Do you get the idea? Okay, good. Okay, so what it means is, when it comes to, yes, Jenny.
Prof, just something that came to mind. Has all this gotten to do with electrocution and all of those things, like data center and all that?
Yeah, you're afraid of being electrocuted, right? Okay.
I'm talking about the spaghetti type. Assuming this
Okay.
is like, I mean, that's
Yeah,
something like
so
this.
so
Can't it lead
this
to electrocution or nothing?
yeah, so these cables are what we call data cable or communication cable. So that you don't get electrocuted with, but we have power cable where power pass through it. This one, what pass through is packets, communication. So that cannot electrocute you. So don't be worried. You are in you are in the right field. So hold
Okay,
them with
thank you.
fun. Hold them with fun, and nothing will happen to you. But yes, we have power cable that power pass through them, but ours is network cable, so you are safe on that side. Okay, so yes, Godfred.
So, Prof, so if you get a job and then on your site surveying, you find an environment with these cables, what would you do?
The good thing is mostly network engineer. You hardly go to the IDF, depending on the company. Sometimes you hardly, and even when you are working from home, you don't even go to those places. But there are situations where, let's say that you have to go and install a switch in those room. They need more switch, or you have to replace a switch, and that is where it becomes, that is not a comfortable process, but that is once in a while. So if you don't get good environment, it's part of the company hazard. Okay, so it's part of the road. That one, you just baptize yourself with it. So by the time you finish installing the new one, a lot of people are out of connection. They'll tell you the server is not working, the PC is not working. But I'm going to show you good practice on how to replace a switch. I'm going to show you good practice at the boot camp that can let you avoid some of these common issues. And that will be the approach you should use, and that will help you in terms of environment like what we spoke about. Okay. Yes,
Yeah,
George. Yeah, go
sorry.
ahead.
My point was since we shouldn't go to play hero at our places. Like if you see such a thing, should you work along with it, keep quiet and do your job, or you can? Is there a way to like correct it or something? Or it is not our job; it is the job of another.
So there is one thing I've told you before, that what is working, don't do what?
Don't change it.
Don't change it. Are you the only person? You want to tell them they don't see it? If nobody is complaining, a day will come, the issue will come, and your boss will be forced to change the process. But if it's working, why worry yourself? Sometimes it could be an IDF that they don't even go there often. Once in a while, there is just a change. So if the person have issue, you remove the cable and install a new cable. That is why. So some of the cables that you see there, they are not pluggable. Let me see if I can get it back again. Most of the cables that you see hanging there, the way they do it is so data closet. Let's see. They don't. Okay, let's say this one. I'm going to replace. I'm going to patch something. I'll just disconnect. I get my patch port number. I disconnect from there, put in a new cable, run it, and connect it back. I'm not going to worry myself tracing anything. So sometimes they do that. So you see, majority of this, when you take them off, they are not connecting to anything, and it add up to make the whole place crazy like that, because it's not fun. And it's just one user. Once you have internet, you don't care what is inside here. Everything is working. So the angle I would say is, what is working, don't do what?
Don't change it.
Don't change it. Just listen to this. It will help you. Else you invite jobs that you don't need. Okay.
All right.
George.
Prof, I think was my question was, let's say I start working it and I get a situation like this, like, oh my God, for the first time, this is what they showed me. That like, I think you answered it by saying you don't really, most of them are not connected. Because I think my issue will be I think I'll panic.
No, why will you panic?
Because
You don't need to
because
panic. You don't need
because
to.
yeah, I think the look of it is just, I mean, for the first time, the look of it will be very, but I think you answered it by saying that most of you just connect what you're connecting and then you move on.
Yeah, then you
Because I
move
thought
on.
you have to be tracing things.
Yeah, sometimes they have to trace, and if they are finding it difficult, they just disconnect from the patch panel ports and then look for the switch to connect it back, you know, and not bother
Okay.
themselves with so many things. But like what you said brought my mind to something, which I've used it before. You go for an interview, they tell you they want to take you around. So it's part of the interview process. So they say they want to take you around their setup. So you go for a tour. Let me put it that way. They take you through a tour. It's part of the interview. You have to be talking. Then you go and see a room like this. George, what will you say when you see a room like this?
Lord's Prayer.
Huh? What will be your comments?
The Lord's Prayer.
Huh?
The Lord's Prayer. I'll say the Lord's Prayer.
To the person you are working with, or the Lord's Prayer in your head?
Oh, are you saying what would I say? Like what,
Yeah,
would they
because
ask me a question
I'm
or
saying
what's the
that
first
it's
thing
a
I'll tell you?
tour. So you have somebody that is taking you through the tour, and you see something like that. What would be what comment? You can't say you will not pass any comment. It doesn't make sense. So what would be the best comment to pass?
I think I'll ask them, do they have any intention on using patch panels in the future?
No,
Yes.
there is a patch panel. Didn't you see patch panel? There is. The reason they
Oh,
are not
I thought
using
it was
cable
just-
management. Either they are using too long, the cable is too long, or they don't have a cable management. The absence of that gives you this issue. If your cable is long, you need to have a cable management process where you put it in that bracket I show you, and then you will not have this
Yeah.
issue. So if you don't have it, then you have to use shorter cables. So they will have a patch panel. Every company has it.
Yeah, so I think I'll ask them, are there any cable management implementations?
No. You don't say that. Who will tell me what will be the best answer? George, I thought you are good with small conversation, but this answer is
No,
not good
because
for.
even right now, as I'm sitting here, I'm sweating because I'm actually like positioning myself in the thing, and I'm like, hey, if I see this, what would I actually like?
Oh, but I've given you easy way out. But for me, when you see something, create fun with it. I'll say, wow, this will be fun. You know, this will be fun. Create something to make them feel like you are okay in terms of what you see. But you don't say something, and the moment you say that, you see that the person will be laughing and give you so many talks. And that is where you create your rapport with the person. I've told you, conversation, when you are going for tour with any person in an interview process, get to know the small conversation. Learn how to, I'm not saying gossip, but small conversation. Okay. Try and create small conversation with the person. It's very key. And if you see something like that, I've had a situation like that, and I said, wow, I love this. This will be fun. Fun to work. So, say that one again. Then the whole conversation changed. Then he gave me the history for the whole idea of how it came about, what issues they have been having with it, and all that. So that would be a right answer than to say the Lord's Prayer. Then it means that you run away. You are not coming back. Okay, so that is good. So this is pingable issue. So we have how to deal with that issue now. So now let's go to the next aspect. So the next aspect will be which is also a scenario you can have for troubleshooting, is slow performance of network. So this is one of their everyday music. Oh, the network is slow. The network is slow. This one you are going to hear it every day. But slow performance, sometimes if you do proper investigation, you see that they are not, what they are asking is not what you should be worried about. So first of all, to get more details, you need to know the scope of the issue. Everything is the scope. Before you resolve, know the scope of the issue. And knowing the scope for slow performance, ask them, users going to the internet, is it the internet which is slow or what? Or just users for internal resources, when they are connecting to internal resources, maybe these users that you have here, when they are going to the internet, they say it's slow.
Hi,
Or,
Prof.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. My hands were up. Do we have this on our study guide? Because I don't see it.
You don't see it? Oh, it should be. When we are done, I'll show you. Network activities. You don't see
in
it
advance, right?
Not the
No,
advanced.
after.
Network activities.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But I will check. I think I did some updates. I don't know if everything is up to date, but I will check again and see. But it's network. If you go to network activities in the guide, you will see it there.
Yes, it's there.
It's there. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So slow performance always is an issue with performance and not a service. What do I mean by that? It means that the service is running, they are able to access it, but they want it to be like a speed of light, where when they click, then boom, it's working. But sometimes your company doesn't have the facilities to make it work that way, because performance could be the type of switches you are using, performance could be the internet pipe you have. That is the reason why you need to act specific to be able to know how to resolve it. So first of all, let's take one example. Is users going to the internet is what they are complaining about. Then you have to say that if it's users, is it everybody or is it only users on this switch? Are you all following what I'm saying? So
Yes.
you can have multiple switches connecting to multiple users. So those who are complaining, get details to know that is it everybody in that remote office or at the data center or at the first floor or whatever. And sometimes you get to know that it can be an issue of only these users. So if it's an issue of only these users, first of all, you have to check the condition of this switch by checking the CPU. So CPU utilization, the verification command to check the CPU utilization is by doing show CPU process why is CPU show CPU process? Let me see. I'm surprised it's not working. Show CPU. Okay, so show process CPU sorted. Okay, so the process should come first. So show process CPU sorted. You write it somewhere. You see the spreadsheet. I've told you there is a column for verification command. All the things I'm writing them here, they are going to ask you in an interview. How do you determine the CPU utilization of a switch? So all the things I'm showing you here, write them there. They are very important for interviews. So that is the session where you have to write them on your spreadsheet to be okay. So if you have a threshold, mostly if you get something within 90 to 100 and users are complaining, then it's a CPU utilization issue. If you have let's say like this one I have here, the issue is not CPU issue. But if you get high CPU utilization, then people are complaining. I'm not saying that if you see 90 and nobody is complaining, you should go and do something about it. Wait for them to complain. Okay, it could be a spike which will come down. So you don't bother with that one. But if it's a situation where they are complaining and then you check and you see that it has high CPU utilization, what you have to do is, because they are complaining, and then you have to be mindful that this one, the services is running. It's not like they can't have it. So you ask permission to reboot this. So you ask permission. There could be a supervisor or somebody there, and tell them that, okay, this one will come back in 15 minutes. I always give 15 minutes, but in reality 5 minutes it will be fine. But you want to use 10 minutes extra to be safe. So within 15 minutes you should be back online. Then you reboot this one. That is when they are talking of only this session. Are you all following the conversation? So if it's only this session complaining of internet or even resources or whatever, it could be that. Another scenario where you can have here is that the CPU is okay, then check your cable errors. You can have issue with the cable errors, or the port will be flapping. So this port will be up and down, which is your uplink port, your trunk port. If your trunk port is also flapping, or you have CRC errors, then that could also affect performance. You might not be totally down, but you can have performance issue as well. So port flapping, high CPU utilization, cable related issue are things that you have to look out for when they are talking of users. And this one I'm dealing with multiple, not single. That is the line of the conversation. When you have done your scope verification work and you know that it is relating to these people, then focus on the switch, focus on the connection and all that. But let's assume that it's not departmental, but it's something relating to everybody here. Normally everybody here, I'll look at this switch or the switch that connect to the router, and you check the CPU, and then you also check the connection here, whether the port is flapping, whether there is cable errors. All those things can affect performance. And if all this doesn't resolve it, come and check here too. Okay, you check this one too, and be sure that there is no issues in terms of the port interface. Now the port interface, how do you check that one? What you do is you come to that port, and let's say the port interface that we have here is G01. So you do show G01 and then show interface G01, and then you do enter here. What you check mostly for that is come and check your duplex settings. Sometimes it will move to half duplex for whatever the case may be. And if it's a half duplex, then that is an issue that you have to hard code it and make it full duplex. This one is auto duplex, but you can convert it to full duplex so that it doesn't negotiate to what? Half duplex. So I've seen scenario 2 like that when it comes to that. So that is something you have to take note of when it comes to that aspect. And I'm still dealing with what? The whole department not working, or the whole remote office having slow performance going to the internet or coming to the data center. That is the conversation we are having, and that is the issue you are solving. Then another scenario is you can check everything I've spoken about. It's not the issue. They are all good. Then what I do is to be
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. To be able to be sure that it's not a provider issue, I do this. Do ping to 8.8.8, which this one I will not get 8.8.8. So let me use an IP that I can reach. So you let me use this IP that I can reach. And then you do reply of, let's say, 100. So that IP should be 8.8.8. You agree with me on that? Then you do this. Okay, for some reason that, okay, it's pinging. Now, 100 is even too small. Let's make 1,000. Now, what are you looking at here? You want to see whether there is drop. If there is drop, then you have to call the provider. That going to the internet, there is drop. You've checked on your internal network, it doesn't seem to be an issue. So when there is drop, what you are going to see is you are not going to have 100% success rate where you got 1,000 respond. So you see that it's going to be this. You are going to have something like this. Then you have something like this. That means that there is drop. Are you all getting what I'm saying? So when you get that from your output, it will affect your success rate. And based on this means that you have issue with your provider network. So you can let them know to be sure that you are going to have good internet access when it comes to that one. So are you all good with that? So they can ask you in an interview, how do you resolve slow performance network? It differ, but my way of working or my working style is to be able to get more details in order to be able to get a right way to resolve that. So first of all, I have to know the scope of the issue. Is it a single device? Is it multiple device? Is it the whole department? Is it an issue relating to one floor? So all those things I have to get details. So in that situation, the engineer can give you a scenario. So let's assume that it's a department, one department or one floor. If it's just one department, it means that it has to be with an issue relating to the switch, because everybody else is using the same internet pipe. So if everybody is good and it's one department, I have to find out what switch they are dealing with. And if I get to know the switch, there are so many possibilities that I have to verify. I have to see whether the CPU utilization is up to the recommended threshold. And then also I have to see whether the port, the uplink port, which can be an issue, whether it's flapping. Sometimes the transceiver is not well seated, so you have the port flapping. Or sometimes you can have issue with the cable and it's giving you CRC errors. Or you can have a situation where the transceiver is not also up to the standard and you have to change it. So all these are possibility of getting what? Slow performance. Are you all getting the way I'm answering that? So watch it and make sure that you have a story around this. So this can be an interview question. So that is the way you solve it. So I'm talking of in a situation relating to what? A whole department or a floor, or in that situation. That is the conversation we've had so far. So I'm going to go to specific. Yes, George.
Yeah, I believe you just answered it, but the question I wanted to ask regarding the flapping was, is it usually something that you solve configuration wise, or it could be the actual ports in the switch where the switch might need replacement, or it could be a cable, or it could be any of them?
It could be any of them. That is so that these are scenarios. So I'm giving you, that is what I'm saying. They are technical. So if you see the title, I'm talking of scenario issue and the checklist to follow. So I'm giving you all the possible scenario that you can have and the checklist to follow. So what you are saying, it could be, that is why I gave you the list. So it could be the cable, it could be the transceiver, like a flapping port, it could be the transceiver, or it could be the cable as well. So all these are possibilities that you have to check. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Yeah, and the reason I was asking was because of the name itself. So initially, when you mentioned it, I was thinking that it's a port, like just the port. That means the device needs to be changed. But the more you were talking, I noticed that it could be
any of them. Yes, that is true. And sometimes to all this is not the issue, but they want is the reality of life. What it means is, so your switch is 100 meg switch, but you want to have internet speed like somebody who is using what, 1 gig switch. Okay, so you sometimes can do a speed test, which I will show you how to do speed test, and then you see whether the speed is reasonable. If it's reasonable, it's okay. So you cannot have 100 meg switch and you want it to perform like 1 gig switch. So in that case, you can recommend, if the provider ISP said is good on their side, you've done all your checking and everything shows that you are good in terms of network, then the hardware itself is what you have to look out for, whether it's up to standard, whether it's not a legacy device that you have to change. All those things are things that you have to consider. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good. Yes, Godfred.
Yeah, Prof, quickly, 2 things. The first one, you gave a command to check for the CPU utilization, if I get that one. Then the second one is if you can cover the second point. That's the check the port errors, speed, and duplex mismatch problems.
Which one are you talking about?
The second point, check the port errors, speed, and duplex mismatch problems. That's on the checklist, the second point.
No, I'm still on the flow. I'm not done. So if your question relates to this, relax.
Yes, you got some. You said something about the duplex, how to change the auto duplex and the stuff to full duplex.
Yes, that is
So,
that is the connection to the provider. And your question
yeah,
is
can you
what?
please go? Yeah, can you go over that one, please?
So that one, I said that the verification command is this. You have to do show interface G01, and then you have to verify whether this is half duplex in terms of verification, and sometimes it could be half duplex or set to half duplex. So in that case, you have to configure it to full duplex. We've done speed settings, so you go to interface G01, and then you can say full duplex or duplex full. I think it's duplex full. Then you change it to be duplex full. That is what I mean. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so now let's say it's not the whole environment, but they are dealing with one device. Let's say this device is the one they are dealing with. So only one device is having performance issue. Everybody is okay, but only one device. So this device you have to find out, is it to internet, is it to whatever. Now let's pick for internet first before I come to the resource, because if it's resource you will have a different approach. So if it's internet, mostly you have to check the port settings here. So the port settings, let's say somebody configure this port to be 10 half duplex, or sometime what happens is this desktop people will go and move the cable to any open port, and if they have internet they say it's okay. They don't call you to configure or to review the port. So if the port doesn't have the right speed setting, it can affect performance, and that is something that you have to check with. And that was the scenario I told you in the class, that I solved somebody issue and he said this guy can increase your internet like pipe, but he doesn't know that I just changed what the speed setting. So one of the common issues is because there are certain devices that you have to hard code it to speed 10. When they put any device which is not meant for that on the same port, you are going to have performance issue with that device. So you have to make sure you correct that one. So that is one angle we have to look out for. Then also another situation is, as I said, duplex mismatch, in terms of the duplex being half duplex or whatever the case may be. Then there is also a possibility of, let's say this device and this one, it has to be with everybody accessing the same service, where the issue has to be with the server port. If it's the server port, then it means that everybody going to the server have performance issue. So let's say this is the server, we are just assuming. In that situation, we have to check the server connection to whether there is any error. Sometimes you can have CRC error, and CRC error will not stop the service. Sometimes you can have the thing running, but then you have performance issue. Okay, so that is something you also have to check when it comes to that. And I've already spoken about bad cable. I've spoken about doing ping test to see the drop, and then also checking your round trip time. Okay, so let me talk about round trip time. So round trip time is what we use to determine how do you call it. So if you do a ping test, the round trip time is what measure the ping due to the connection. So for example, let me take one example here, and then let's do what I did before, where we ping this one, and let's consider the round trip time that I'm talking about, which also supports you to troubleshoot. Okay, so this is your round trip time, which is in milliseconds. Now, anything below 100 should not affect performance. Anything below 100 should not affect performance. So acceptable range from this, not the last end, from especially the first one. If it's below 100, it's okay. It shouldn't affect performance. But there are factors that influence this. Factors that will influence the numbers you get, which because of that factors, it makes what you get to be acceptable. Distance is one key thing. So if you are pinging a server, you are in Boston, you are pinging a server in Pakistan, don't expect to have the same round trip time like a server in let's say Worcester. It doesn't make sense. So you can have something more than 100 because of the distance. Are you all getting what I'm saying? So this can affect, you can use this information to troubleshoot based on distance. But if this is a local device and you get something like 120, no, this is not good. That means there is a performance issue. Are you all getting what I'm saying? And then there is another factor of the number of hops, which sometimes you don't have control over it. So what it means is I have one remote office here, I have one remote office here, or this is my data center, and then I have a remote office here. They want to communicate to the data center, but this connection here is on ISP. They are supposed to bring me to here. But on the ISP network, sometimes they will send you here before they bring you here, before they send you here. So you go through so many hops before you come here. Do you all get the flow of what I'm saying? So because of your number of hops, it's going to affect this. So in that situation, you can tell them, can you give me there is a name, or is it distance map? There is a term that they give, distance map, or the map of path map, one of those things. I don't really remember that one. When, if in the course I remember, I'll tell you. But it's something that you tell the provider that I want to determine the hops to my location. You understand? So that will tell you that they are sending you back before bringing you forward. And that one, they have to correct it. They have to correct it by making sure that if I have a router here, why don't you route me here and bring me here? But now you are routing me here for this to advertise here and come here. Are you all getting what I'm saying? So the number of hops is very, very important, okay, in terms of that. And then the traffic levels. For example, if you are not using MPLS and you are using a shared traffic, there will be congestion. There are times where there will be congestion. So when there are congestion on the traffic, then it's going to be an issue with, in terms of your round trip time. You can have a decreased number, and that will affect your traffic as well. And also, if there is an issue with the server side, which I've spoken about, then the server response time could also be the reason why you are getting very high round trip time. So what I would say to make it easier for you to get is, if I'm internal and I'm pinging something internal, 1 to 3 is okay, or 1 to 10. Let me make it 1 to 10. 1 to 10 is what you get normally if it's the same LAN. Normally you get 1 to 10. But if you are within the same city, then you can have 10 to 50 to be acceptable, the same city. And then if it's different states, then you can have 50 to 100, and that is acceptable. But if you are going to different country, depending on how far it is, you can even get over 300 and it's still acceptable because of the distance you are dealing with. So that one, you have to let them know. There is nothing you can do about that. So that is not an issue for you at all to what? Resolve. Are you all getting what I'm saying? Okay. Then another thing when it comes to performance for ping test with source and destination, which is what I use to keep the how do you call it, the server guys quiet. So you do ping, let's say 10.0.241.241.3, And then let me see if we have source here. Okay, then source 10 dot, I will explain this IP address 241.2. Then size, let's say I normally use 1500, then reply, let's say 100. Okay, let me see what IP I cannot use. The IP address not on any of our app interface. I thought that is the IP here. Okay, let me check something. Show IP interface brief. Okay, so let me see something. So ping 10.0.6.2. Let me be sure this is working. Okay, let me try this one. Okay, so this is working. So we are going to use this one. So ping this and source 10.0.2 2.3, size 1500, reply 100. Okay, now this is what I use. Then I'll copy it and put it in the email and send it to them to keep quiet. What do I mean by that? So sometimes you can have issue with client to server. Client to server, which means that this is your PC, your client, it wants to talk to a server, and they are saying that it's a network related issue. So what it means is on the core side, let's say this is my core switch, or sometimes it can be internal network. Let's say this is my core switch, and on the core switch you have to talk to, or whatever user want to talk to, whatever. So I will get the destination IP where they want to talk to, then I'll get the source, and the source, then I'll say that I'm pinging to the destination from here. Even if you are dealing with bigger image, respond with 100. I didn't see any drop. I have 100% rate. So how can it be network? There is no single drop. So slow performance has nothing to do with what? Network. Are you all getting the concept of what I'm talking about? And how do you get the source? Sometimes you have to be sure that the source IP they give you, let's say they give you, sometimes they will not give you the full IP, but you can get, or let's say you don't know the source IP on your core switch, but you can do something like show IP app and say include, let's say all you need is this one, the first 3 octet. Then this will give you what VLAN that is working on. So if you look at this, it's working on VLAN 102. So VLAN 102, this is my IP. So this is where I'll source it from. So you can do this verification also to get to know. This verification gives you the network on the core, what you are dealing with. But if you give the IP address, it gives you the MAC address and the VLAN of the device. So let's say I'm using .3 here. It gives you the IP, the MAC address, and the VLAN is working on. So all I need from the user is the source network they are dealing with. I get to know the IP, then I source it from there, and I do this ping command, and then I send it to you, and I said, I don't see anything on network, so this cannot be what? Network related issue. Are you all okay on that aspect? Okay, good. Then another thing you can do, we've talked about that CPU utilization. I also left something. If everything is the issue, do CPU utilization on the router. So we spoke about the switch. You can also check on the router, and if it's also having a very high CPU utilization, that can also be an issue. Okay, so take note of that, and that means that you have to also reboot it. And sometimes if you are rebooting routers, I prefer to reboot all this to bring them up at the same time. It helps in terms of that. and already we spoke about the provider link with the errors. Then the next one is use monitoring tool to see the top talkers. So there are monitoring tool that every company should have. So in your first week, your orientation, what monitoring tool am I supposed to be oriented to support my role? So these are first questions to ask when you are working to. So add that question to your first week as part of your survey. What monitoring tool do you use for your bandwidth utilization? This monitoring tool will support you with the bandwidth utilization. So let's say this PC is the one who has hijacked the traffic. This person is watching Netflix, he has opened YouTube, he has opened unnecessary stuff. So he has hijacked all the bandwidth. Now the monitoring tool will show you a top talker IP. Then you trace that device and you let somebody check whether it's an official work. If it's an official work, then you have to educate them the reality of time. Whether they change the internet pipe, you'll be surprised that you get a company in America here and their internet pipe is 1.5 meg. When in my house I'm using over 200 meg. Then how can a corporate network is using 1.5? But trust me, you are going to see that in real life. And if you are dealing with 1.5 meg, how do you expect to have good internet performance? So what I tell them is we have to change this one, the provider to have good internet, because everything on the network is good, but your internet pipe is not acceptable. Then you change it for something that will be acceptable. And that is what you have to talk about when it comes to what? Performance issue. Any questions so far?
Yes, Prof.
Yeah. It seems like Godfred is the only one paying attention because he's the only one asking questions. Everybody is very quiet, and some people have also off their camera, and I'm sure maybe they are watching soccer. And then when they get a job, and then they will say, Prof, I'm hot. Okay, what issue is it? Performance. What have you done to solve it yourself? Oh, that is why I'm calling you. Okay, I'm busy now. I'll call you later on. That will be the game. Because when we're busy talking and Godfred is getting his facts right, you are watching soccer. Unfortunately, that is how sometimes some of my students behave, and that one is not cool. So Godfred, yes, let me hear you.
Yes, I want to get, so the point you said about again checking for the CPU utilization on the router, and then if it is not good, you reboot. This is in a scenario where the entire
very good
group is playing, right?
Very good. Yes, not one user. One user issue is always going to relate to the port. That one most often is the port or the cable. Most often for single user, the port or the cable. Let me also give you one technique. That is why questions is good though, because it also kind of remember me some of the things I know. Now I've had a situation where everything is done but it's not working. Then this PC was on auto negotiate. So I had code the speed. The switch was 1 gig. So I had coded it to be 1000, and then I made them to change the speed, which I have taught you how to do it. I told you that on the PC side, you have to tell them, come to network session, and then come to change adapter. Okay, this one, where is, okay, I think this one I'll show you at the bootcamp. Let me even forget. There is something I remember, so it will not make sense now. So what I mean is, you have to hard code on the switch side and hard code it on the PC side as 1 gig, and that also improve the performance. And if all this is not working for single user, tell them as I go and re-image it or do something, because virus can make your PC slow. So you tell them, no, there is nothing network. I don't see anything network. So they have a way of re-imaging it, because when this is infected with virus, it's going to affect the PC performance. It can be very slow. So what you have to do is check on your network, do all the things I've talked about on a single user, and if it still doesn't solve it, you tell them you don't see anything on network, and then they will deal with the rest. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I'm still on the floor. So in this case, since the entire
The man wants to be the fastest troubleshooter. Yes, I like that. Yes, Godfred.
so since it's the entire group that has been affected, so before you reboot and all those things, must there be communication from somewhere to all the users or like
Yes, yes, you
so
don't. Yes, because performance, that is the reason why I said this. Issue with performance and not a service. The service is not down, it's just slow. So they will prefer to work with it than you. Maybe they are at a
that's right.
critical stage. So you cannot
Uh-huh.
reboot it. You have to inform the head. There is always a head of department of, even if it's let's say this is accounts department. You all the full support. You tell them that we have to reboot, so they should let the people there aware of it, so they can also talk to these people. And because they are also frustrated because they want to be able to work well, they will tell you, oh, go ahead, go ahead. They will even go and take their coffee break or somebody will go and smoke and come back. So they are even happy, for that break. But you have to communicate before you reboot. Maybe they have to save something or something of that nature.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Yvonne.
Please, you haven't spoken about the last one, the educate the user with realities of life. What are you supposed to tell them?
So the educate the user, I said that it could be for the switch if everything is okay, but you see that the switch is 100 meg ports. When they can have 1 gig port, then they have to change the switch. Or it could be that the internet pipe, as I said, is 1.5. So you tell, and that one you don't tell the users, you tell the manager or whoever is responsible for that place that please we have to increase, get different provider because it's just one. Sometimes they don't even know that it's 1.5. They don't even know it. So when you tell them, they say, what? Even my house is 60 meg. Let's go and change it, So they don't even know it. So that is why I said educate the user with the reality of life for them to take a decision. But also let me tell you this, as you ask this question, guys, try to ask questions because it remind me. Most of the things I'm teaching you is right from experience. So questions help. Now, if you go and change this internet, okay, to let's say 1 gig, and the router is fast Ethernet of 100 meg, so it's 100 here, 100 here. The 1 gig internet pipe here is useless. Are you all getting what I'm saying? Because there is a bottleneck here which will restrict the speed that you want. So if here is 1 gig, here should be 1 gig. So you have to make sure that sometime in increasing the speed, you have to change this, and then, or if you make it 300 meg, and then you have only 100 meg on the router, or even sometimes it's not even to the switch. Connecting to the provider is 100 meg. So some of the routers are fast Ethernet port, which means that it's 100 meg. G is 1 gig, which is 1000 meg. So if I have 100 meg and you get 300 meg, it's useless. Are you all getting the flow? Because in that case, you have to change the router to gig so that you can get the 300 in that situation. You can get 100% throughput in terms of the performance. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Jenny.
So, so is it because of these many issues to troubleshoot, usually in the physical world, that it looks as if the IT guys or the network guys are always angry?
Why? Who told you the network guys are always
Oh,
angry?
so most of them. I had an internship somewhere, and then it's like different departments have issues. They'll send tickets, and then maybe somebody is saying it's slow communication or the system is not performing well. Somebody will say I cannot print, and then before the network guys even get to the office, you can see from their faces are all red or they are angry. It's like it's very depressing.
So that depends on individual, I think. For me,
Okay.
And it depends on the manager. So there is this thing I use for an interview. If they ask you what motivates you in this role, what is your motivation in being a network engineer. And I tell them that my motivation is when I get a good manager. And that one, and anytime you say that, you see that their face will change, especially if the person is a hiring manager. But indirectly, you are communicating to him. And I tell him that a manager is what makes everything easier. Because if the manager doesn't understand the technical part of the job, it becomes very difficult convincing the person on what to do and what not to do. So for me, I want to have a good manager who understands my role and who also will be there for me in terms of what I need in terms of my job. And this is something that hiring manager love to hear. And for some reason, and maybe it can be coincident or whatever, anytime I use this in an interview when they ask, right from day one, the manager tried to do everything to make me happy. I don't know whether because I said it before coming or whatever the case may be. You see that he will make sure, because you've said it before coming. And then I tell them that, look, I spend more time at work even than in the house. So I spend more time. So for me, the job is more, people I work with is more like a family people. I want to be able to feel comfortable because I spend like 8 hours. Sometimes this role you have to deal with 10 hours, depending on issues you have to resolve. I get home, you sleep. So I spend most of my time working. And why will I have a manager where every day I'll be angry and not be able to understand? So most often it's a manager issue. But I will not let somebody let me be angry, which is something we should all learn. That is why I said it depends on individual. Listen, if I'm good, I'll ignore you. Hold on.
To they've been angry at the managers.
Okay.
They were actually always angry about the office people. I don't know whether they thought it was their heels that were dragging the cables, or they always have
Then maybe
problems
they are
with all the
desktop people. The people that I know get angry more are desktop people because
where like your manager appreciates what you're doing, like your situation for instance, but maybe he's not technical enough to understand everything you're doing, even though he needs to report. How do you work with him then in such a situation?
So for me, I've had experience with those who are technical and those who are not technical. But one thing I've noticed among both is that those who are not technical, if you are doing your stuff well, they are okay. But most often, I've had a situation where a manager was fired and I was still there. And I think I've said it in class before, where we were setting a remote office. And I'll discuss this with you at the boot camp. And the requirement here was they were using MPLS. So I was using existing model. And then they had an internet pipe of 20 meg or so. And my boss said that no, 20 meg is too expensive. So we can't afford that. So go with 5 meg. And that manager wasn't technical. So I didn't bother. I said, okay. And he said it on phone. So I sent him email. And I said that my recommendation is 20 meg based on Worcester location, which is a similar setup. So are we going for the 20 meg or your proposed 5 meg? And I did it deliberately. And he responded back that we have to go with 5 meg because of budget. I said, okay. Not knowing he was saying something he doesn't know. Then I finished setting up the office. Then after we finished, within 3 weeks, they were all complaining. The performance is so bad, whatever. Then they sent the email to my boss, and my boss responded with all of them in the email chain. So I also reply all. Then I copy that message that I sent to him. Then I said, see attached. This was my recommendation, but you advise otherwise. Then I made it shocked and I ended it. The man, the way he suffered. He said, but Isaac, why didn't you explain to me? I said, but I told you there is a working model and they are using 20 meg. You saw it in my email. He said, no, I didn't understand. I said, okay, maybe you didn't understand, but that is what I said in the email. So right now, I don't know what to. He said, no. And you know the sad part of it, to change the 5 meg to 20 meg, they cannot upgrade this. So we have to cancel this contract, which comes with a cost, and then install a new one with 20 meg. After that, they fired him, with my email. And according to the person he reported to, he said, but the engineer stated everything clear and you went against it. Are you the engineer or are you the one working? So if you have a manager who is not good, don't fight. Just do your work. If you say do this and you can do, you add your recommendation. If you take it, fine. If he doesn't take it, look, you will close 5 p.m. Whatever the hey will be, 5 p.m. you will close. Then you come back to the house, you go back. So for me, I don't really work dealing with managers or making managers to be my issue. No, I don't deal with that. I'll do my part, do what I'm supposed to do, and then if the issue comes, you see that you'll be proven right. Do you get it? Okay. Yes, David.
Yes, sir.
David.
Yeah, bro, I got a question. With the multiple devices, so let's say you have like 5 end user computers, and 4 out of 5 are not working. Do you ever? Can there ever be a situation like that where 4 out of 5 is not working and only 1 works?
And they are all connecting to one switch?
One switch, yes.
And 4 of them are working and 1 is not working?
No, 4 is not working and only 1 is working. Like 1 has connection and can go through. Is there any situation like that before?
No, I've not seen a situation, because what if you have 4, the 4 rather should work and 1 should not work. That is a situation that can happen. By a situation of having the 4 all not working on the same switch, maybe by cable tracing, this is on a different switch. If you trace the cable wall, it will point to you that this might be on a different switch, but not the same switch, because then it will not make sense on how to troubleshoot.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering if that's...
Yeah,
if that's
but do you get the idea of what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
okay.
I do.
Yes, good.
Right, thank you.
Obi.
Yes, Prof. I have 2 questions, right?
Okay.
So number 1 is about speed and bandwidth. I don't know. Sometimes I get confused about the 2. I don't know if they're similar things or different things.
They are not the same.
So,
They are not the same, but I'll give you to you as research. And come and let me see your research skills Monday. But it's a very good question you've asked. And sometimes it can be an interview. What is the difference between speed and bandwidth? So research and come and give me the right answer. Okay? Next week.
All
so
right.
I was, and Chester, remind me, let me see how you guys research. If I don't get the right answer, I will show you how to research. And then you see how you can use the internet. No, don't try it now. I want you to go and do it and come and tell me. I will check the answer for everybody and find out what did you type on the internet to get that output. And now you see that I will show you a better approach on that.
Okay. So the other question is like the troubleshooting approach we've been using so far, right? Does that apply to wireless end devices, wireless clients as well?
Okay. So wireless, I'm going to say one, but try and watch the wireless video. But I'm going to say one which relate to network. Okay. Now, but watch the video. Even if you don't, you might not understand. But you let me explain. In terms of wireless, you have an AP connected to this switch, okay? And this port is in error disable mode, so that this AP will be offline. When it's offline, everybody here, either they will be connecting to a nearby wireless, and because of that, you see that they are connectivity amber. They will have like 2 lines. 2 lines, they normal, 1 line and 2 lines, they normally complain of performance. It's good to have 3 or more, or 5 bar would be ideal. But when they have 2 or 1, they will say performance issue. That means that the AP that they are supposed to connect to is offline. So you have to go on site, and then you look at where the location is and see whether there's any nearby AP, and watch the light indication, which all these are in the boot camp. I say in the wireless video, and then I'll teach you light indication at the boot camp because we have APs there. So I'll show you what light indication shows that the AP is offline, or the AP has been disconnected from the wireless controller, or the AP is trying to search for wireless controller and it's not finding it. They are all light indication to show that. So that is something that as a network engineer you can easily see. And in that situation, you have to also check this one and do that, and do shut and no shut. And then you can have situation where the client over here has 2 bar, the light is here all right, showing good, but they are not connecting to this. They are connecting to far away AP. That one too, you can rebounce the interface. So you do shut and no shut to reboot the AP, and when they reboot it, you see that they will now connect to it and the performance will be good. But try and watch. So what I'm going to do,